You are now listening to the Where's the Line podcast with Joseph West and Britt Dillard. Enjoy the show.
Milton gonna take a shot wide open and just strutting in is Keaton. Joe Milton does it again.
Borgie again on a blitz. Levis pocket collapses. He's on the run. He just heaves it up. And it's intercepted by Vanderbilt. And let the celebration begin. The streak is over at 26. The Commodores win it.
Talk about Vanderbilt football. All I gotta say, and you're going to hell. Bye.
Another edition of Where's the Line? It is Tuesday, November 12th. This is episode number 144. My name is Britt Dillard, joined here by Joseph West. How are you today, brother?
That's right. I am good, Mr. Britt. How are you, sir?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day today. Went for a walk with my wife before the pod here, but yeah, it's a great day.
Only a simp would do that.
That's true.
That's crazy.
That's true. But Joseph, I guess we have some business to attend to, some news to announce.
Chat, listen in. Chat, listen up. We have news to break. It is not the greatest news that I've ever delivered to a group of people that has supported us as much as most of you have. You have sat through countless episodes that I have just thought were garbage. And I was just like, there's no way anybody's listening to that. And you have just done nothing but be great to us. So first of all, start this by saying thank you to all the great people that have listened to this podcast. Also, with that being said, the news that me and Britt have is that Where's the Line will be ending as of this football season. We will probably go, if UT makes the playoff, then we'll cover Vanderbilt's bowl game and UT's playoff run. And if they don't, then we'll probably call it quits after the final week of the regular season or after the SEC championship, so somewhere in there. But you got at least about 3 episodes left here for sure. Just to kind of let you know, me and Britt are not mad at each other. We don't hate each other. We're not ending this podcast because we're not friends anymore. It is just our schedules have not been matching up. We didn't record last week. Britt, did you actually end up dropping an episode last week?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I never seen it if you did. We obviously didn't record last week. Apologies for that. It just did not work out. And me and Britt just discussed, and, our lives have kind of taken us in 2 different ways. And, it's kind of sad. I think it is for the best that we're going separate ways just because, it just hasn't been working. And that's the best way to put it. I'm probably, for me personally, I will probably pursue a couple of different avenues. And if that does happen and I wind up on another podcast, I promise you a guest speaker will be Britt Dillard. He will be on an episode of the pod if that's the way it all ends up working out. But sadly, have to start this podcast out a little depressing by saying that it will be coming to an end. It's been a great 4 years? Did we start this after COVID, or 3 years?
Yeah, it's been close to 4. Yeah, so it's been a good run for me. I mean, I'm not going to be doing anything else. I've made enough money from this to just retire and
he quit
and kind of sit on my laurels for a little bit. But no, appreciate everybody listening. It was fun. It's kind of like, it's bittersweet because I mean, this even if it's just one night a week, I mean, it is I don't want to say a big responsibility. It's not difficult, but I mean, it is something you kind of have to, sometimes you got to force yourself to, you don't always want to jump in front of the camera and talk.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. I'll miss it.
It's been an absolute blast. I wouldn't have it any other way. All the from the off season rankings to talking about how bad our football teams have sucked. And honestly, we've both got to see our football teams overachieve at this point. So we've kind of went through all the valleys, all the hills here on Unbiased Podcast / Where's the Line. So it has been one hell of a ride, and I hate to see it come to an end as well. But it just simply had to be done. I mean, it was not working as well as it used to. Life has progressed, and we shall move forward nonetheless.
Yeah, I think I've got enough material on the internet forever to get me canceled in the future, prevent me from some sort of job opportunity. So we should be all set there.
Yeah, if for some reason I ever decide to run for a political office, I will be sent into the depths. So hopefully I never do that. Or hopefully if I do, we at least get all this stuff off the internet and all of my good friends delete their screen recordings. But anyways, enough sadness. We will make sure to let you know exactly when the last week will be. And we'll go from there.
And we will carry the fight till then.
And we will carry the fight. We will not miss an episode until then. So we are here to stay for the last 3 episodes at least. So there it is. There's the sad news. It's time to recap though. We're putting that away. We're here to deliver at least 3 really strong podcasts left. That's what we got left. We got 3 good podcasts left to give. Maybe a couple more.
I think I can do it.
I think we can do it.
But if you want to, Joseph, start with Vanderbilt, and then we'll hit Tennessee a little bit, and then talk about next week for Tennessee, since Vandy's on a bye week.
Yes. Starting on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt took on South Carolina this past Saturday. The Gamecocks came into town. There was one word to describe this game. That is dominated. Vanderbilt got dominated in this game. Vanderbilt played the best defensive line in the country, and it is not relatively close. As just by the numbers, they have absolutely wreaked havoc in just about every game, except for maybe you can argue one. This team is, me and my dad were actually discussing before the game this weekend. I believe it was on Thursday. We were discussing about South Carolina, and we said, man, South Carolina is a bad couple drives against Bama and the worst officiating job I've ever seen. Yeah. South Carolina against LSU from being a one-loss team and being the favorite in the SEC, or at least tied with Tennessee, because Tennessee only has 1 conference loss as well. So I mean, when you look at this team, I think you have to say that they're not what their record says they are. They're 6-3, but they're better than that. They have the best defensive line in the country. Their defensive line absolutely ate Vanderbilt up all game long. They just could not get anything going offensively. Vanderbilt could not tackle in this game. Vanderbilt struggled to bring Sellers down. They struggled to make open field tackles defensively. I still thought the defense played well. I mean, the offense did nothing in the first half, barely moved the football, and we had less than 100 yards of offense, and South Carolina scored 7 points. So defense really did their job. South Carolina ended up putting 21 up in the second half, and the defense just kind of got worn down. When you're missing 3 defensive linemen, it's just going to happen like that sometimes. You're just going to kind of give up some points. Vanderbilt didn't score until late in the third quarter when Diego Pavia had to scramble into the end zone for 6. And Vanderbilt had a chance to kind of cut it to a score a couple times. And honestly, they just could not get moving. Diego Pavia took a big hit, but I believe he's going to be okay. Just to read his stats, 16 of 31 for 166 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. He had 13 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, like I said, when you read that off, it pretty much is what it is. I mean, that's not a whole lot of offense. Pavia was our leading rusher, said he had 10 carries for 30 yards. So, I mean, that's not a whole lot of offense. Total number there is we had 274 yards of total offense compared to South Carolina's 450. South Carolina time possession had 31 minutes. 25 first downs for South Carolina compared to Vanderbilt's 17. We each had a turnover. Two plays really dictated this game when you ask me, and it's Vanderbilt got a turnover early, and Vanderbilt's offense took over on South Carolina's 18-yard line. You have 18 yards to go to score 6 points to go up by a touchdown early, and on Vanderbilt's very first play, they turned the ball over. You just cannot do that when you're out-talented and outmatched. You have to take advantage when you can. And then we had Sellers wrapped up at the 1-yard line, at their own 1-yard line, and he managed to escape because it looked like he was getting sacked at the 1. Your secondary just kind of started rushing in, and he broke away through a deep pass for like a 70-yard gain. And those two plays, I think, really dictated the game there. Vanderbilt was able to get pressure. They just didn't have it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It happens in football. It happens in every sport. Some nights it just doesn't click. It didn't click offensively, and the defensive line tore you up all night. So you just kind of got to take this one on the chin. You have a week to get healthy, bye week coming up. So with the bye week, you kind of hope that you can get healthy and progress here and just kind of see what happens going into the last two games with the LSU Tigers in Death Valley, and then Tennessee takes the trip east to Nashville. So get healthy, would love to see Tim Beck adjust the offense. I think that the scheme, obviously there's tape now. So teams are going to load the box. They're going to make your receivers win one-on-one. We don't really have a lot of receivers that can do that consistently. And I don't think we have anybody that can do that consistently outside of Eli Stowers. And, he had 4 receptions for 41 yards this week, still made a little bit of an impact, but wasn't doing too much overall. I think that, you just got to adjust the offense. He had 6 games in a row, couldn't really catch his breath, had a hard stretch there. You got a week to kind of prepare for your last 2. And in my opinion, you got to throw everything you can in the bye week into the playbook, and you got to go after LSU and Tennessee. I mean, you have a chance to have the greatest season in Vanderbilt history. I think you have to get to 7 wins. If you get to 8, it for sure is. And if you get to 7, I think there's an argument. So you would beat LSU at Death Valley or top 10 ranked Tennessee. Even with a loss, I think they're still top 10. Even if they lose to Georgia, I assume they're still a top 10 team. So that would be my take on it. You got to find a way to beat one of them. And, we'll just see what happens, but not totally disheartened by the performance. You hate to lose like this, especially to a team that we haven't beat since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
It was a tough game to watch, but it is part of it. There's sometimes there are just games like this.
Yeah, and you said South Carolina is one really bad call away from being, in a few drives, from being 9-1. I'll take it a step further. If South Carolina was sitting at 9-1 right now, they would have the best resume in college football.
Yeah,
they'd have 3 ranked wins with a chance to get 2 more.
Yeah, that would make them 8-1. By the way, 8-1. They are 6-3. Change 2 of those.
8-1.
8-1 there, but
with a chance to get 2 more ranked wins. Which, if you look at the top of college football right now, in the top 5, I mean, you've only got 3 of those combined.
Yeah,
so,
that would be the best resume in the country. Certainly, you would have a win on the road in T-Town, and you would have a win at home over LSU. I think agree with Britt there. I didn't say that, but certainly agree. That would be the best resume in the country. And that's crazy to think about. The refs in the LSU South Carolina game, truly, and this is coming from somebody who hates South Carolina, truly that was one of the worst reffing performances I've ever seen. The pass interference was ghost, not even close to PI, ridiculous bad call. And then them bringing back the pick 6 just because a dude levels the quarterback. I get it. It is the correct call technically, but to me, that should not erase the pick 6. Nussmeier had no chance to go make the tackle. He's 20 yards away from him, and he's white. He's not chasing that cornerback down. I'm here to tell you. Yeah. So the fact that pick 6 gets erased is stupid. They need to fix that. That's dumb. If you move him back 15 yards on the extra point or on the kickoff, I'm okay with that. but not taking 6 points off the board, that's dumb. South Carolina deserved to win the football game, and the refs directly made an impact to make them lose. And that's just, I mean, we've talked about refs on this podcast this year, but it's just unacceptable. I mean, truly.
Yeah, but Vanderbilt's got 2 opportunities that I would feel pretty good about as a Vanderbilt fan. I don't expect Death Valley to be exactly too fired up 2 Saturdays from now after a big loss to Alabama, and their season kind of it's not over, but
yeah,
it seems kind of over.
When you get drummed like that at home, when you have this really scary environment at home, apparently, and you get absolutely drummed in it, I think that has to be pretty demoralizing. And I mean, honestly, that's all I really have to say about the Doors as far as their performance against USC Junior. Also, if you're a grown man and you scream "Go Cox," you're weird. So grow up. That's just weird to say. South Carolina fans, I hate you. So let me just get that out there as well. Also, before we started recording, to touch on one more thing involving Vanderbilt, before we started recording, Britt asked me to explain the Diego Pavia lawsuit. So I am here to explain the lawsuit. If you are on Twitter or follow On Sports on any social media page, they have posted today that Diego Pavia's temporary restraining order against the NCAA has been denied. Basically, it was an ex parte TRO. It's difficult to get. It basically just means where when you look it up, an ex parte order, and I could be saying that wrong, is a temporary court order that a judge issues without hearing both sides of a case. The term ex parte, or however you say that, comes from Latin and means from one party. So basically, what Diego was trying to do is they were trying to speed up the process, go, in order for him to get either eligibility or denied before the transfer portal opened. So it makes it more likely that this is going to drag over into the transfer portal. The court's going to set up the briefing schedule, so it's pretty much up to the court at this point as exactly when he gets in. I still think they'll try to speed it up for him just because they know like his window's pretty small to figure it out. I still think they may try to help him, but ultimately what he's doing is he's suing the NCAA to say that their rules do not have any benefit for guys in JUCO. And it is a valid point. In my opinion, I think that you should make your first year of JUCO, you get 1 year. If you go to JUCO 2 years, that's fine, but you get one of those years back. 1 year in JUCO is just like a red shirt at a D1 program. They give people medical red shirts all the time for a sprained pinky or a broken thumb. Guys who have already used basically a freshman red shirt or a red shirt year just to get bigger, get stronger, be ready to play on that level that they're on. You give them that red shirt, and then they'll claim a medical red shirt because they broke their thumb or whatever, something stupid. They'll get a medical red shirt for an extra year of eligibility, essentially just so they maybe can play an extra year. To me, you're not really hurting anything or anybody by giving JUCO guys 1 year back. You're just letting them play an extra year at a higher level. You're just basically giving them an extra chance to go to the league. I don't see how that's bad for sports. People play 5 and 6 years before COVID anyways. And so giving somebody 5 years to play 4 years at the D1 level, to me, is not a bad idea. But essentially, he's saying that when he was in JUCO, and also in his instance, it's a little different. He was at a military institute. So by law, he could not collect any money at the military institute. He's not allowed to get any NIL money. So he's saying, hey, this is not fair. I should get another year of eligibility. Suing you for it. Let's see if we can get it. That's essentially what he's doing.
How many years? What year is this for Diego?
This is year 5 for Diego Pavia. This is year 5 for Diego Pavia. No, I'm sorry. This is year 4 for Diego Pavia. He played 2 years at New Mexico State, 1 year at Vandy, and 1 year in JUCO. So this is your.
So he never redshirted.
No, he never redshirted. Played a year at JUCO, 2 years in New Mexico State. He's essentially, and he is suing. If you read the court documents, he is suing for 2 years of eligibility. Now, I've heard from the rumor of his inner circle is that he is suing for 2 years of eligibility in the hope to just get 1. So I don't think he actually thinks has any chance to get 2 years. He's really just trying to get one. And obviously, if he wins this lawsuit, this will change the game for JUCO guys, because then they'll get, if they go 1 year at JUCO, they'll still get 4 years of eligibility at the D1 level. So, we'll see what kind of happens, but that's the gist of it, is pretty much what he's doing, is saying, hey, my JUCO year shouldn't count and that I should get an extra year of eligibility. I made a post on – oh, go ahead.
You may not know this. Did he play in JUCO? Did he actually –
He was the starter. He got named the starter, I think, after game 3 or 4. Okay. I want to say it was after 3 games. The 4th game, he got named the starter of the JUCO team. And so he did play. And that's the thing is I'm not for guys being 26, 27 years old and still playing college football. And you can look around college football. There's a lot of those guys on different teams. I had a tweet that had a decent amount of it, like 25,000 impressions a couple days ago. I'm not sure how many it's up to now, but I named several guys, and I only used a couple of UT guys because I knew for sure how old they were. I brought up Brew McCoy. I brought up Keenan Pili. I brought up Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Those are guys that are all 25 years old and older that have been in college football longer than Diego Pavia. And so Diego Pavia is only 23 years old. And so, to me, if you're really mad about him getting 1 more year, then you should be really pissed off at 26, 27-year-olds still playing college football. And, I think as long as you're consistent with it, then I don't care. If you're like Diego Pavia shouldn't get an extra year of eligibility because once you're 24 years old, you shouldn't be playing college sports anymore, I'm fine with that. As long as you're even across the board, I'm good with that. But if you're for, medical red shirts for stupid stuff, and, it's different if a guy tears his ACL and he was a factor, but a lot of medical red shirts have gotten glazed over because of a guy just wasn't going to get to play and got hurt in practice or whatever. And they were like, oh, yeah, medical red shirt, just to try to get an extra chance to play in a couple years. So either, buckle down on it all, or at some point just let it go. Just go ahead and give everybody 5 years and say, okay, we're not giving you get 1 medical red shirt, you get 1 regular red shirt, and we ain't giving you nothing else. No more 4 and 5 medical red shirts.
Yeah, I don't know what it'll look like because I don't. If anything, it's hard for me to envision the NCAA implementing new rules. It just seems weird to me. But Cam Rising was class of 2017. I've been out of college. I graduated college 3 years ago this December. And Cam Rising has been in college.
And you did not graduate. You did not graduate high school until the year after that.
Yeah.
So
he essentially has been in college for 8 years.
Yeah. And that's insane. You've got that tight end down at Miami that's been in school for 7 years. You've got guys that are just, they're everywhere.
It's so lame.
Yeah, and honestly,
put the fries in the bag.
And honestly, this is going to be the craziest part of it all, is that there is no jury. This is solely up to a judge. If the judge rules Diego wins, he gets a year of eligibility. If he rules against him, he doesn't. This is solely up to one man. And so he's kind of got to hope he gets a favorable judge, somebody that hates the NCAA. Now, there is something in his favor. This jurisdiction in this state hates the NCAA. They hate them. You saw that with Tennessee's lawsuit. Again, when they went head-to-head with the NCAA, this jurisdiction ruled in Tennessee's favor for one reason. They hate the NCAA. That's the only reason I think he's got a shot, is because this jurisdiction does not like when the NCAA does. They think they're slimy. So we'll see if he can get a favorable judge. Obviously, if he does, if things go his way, I'll be happy. But if he doesn't know by the transfer portal, you're going to have to offer somebody else big-time money to come and build off this momentum that you've built. And sadly, he'll just kind of be out of luck in Nashville. And that will just be, how it goes. It's the sad part, but it is what it is.
I'm sitting here trying to think how does Cam Rising still have, he's eligible, he can come back next year and play. How is this possible?
He had to get another medical red shirt this year. He had to apply for it. So assuming that it gets approved, he could come back and play next year. Yes. I read about that the other day. But yeah,
I don't disagree with, if you're just prone to being hurt, that's not your fault.
But here's my question.
But at
when
what
does it
point
end?
is it too much? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's not our fault that you can't stay healthy. In my opinion, you should get no more than one medical red shirt. You get one medical red shirt after that, and you get your freshman red shirt. So that means essentially you could be in college and play college athletics 6 years. You get a red shirt and a medical red shirt, and then you get 4 years of eligibility. That's 6 years. That should be the max. There should be no going over 6 years. There's no reason for that. If you can't stay healthy after that, I'm sorry, man. You're just not meant to be. You're not making it to the league anyways. You've been hurt 1,000 times.
And Cam Rising has just in 2022, I think that was when Cam Rising was at his best. Go to the draft, man. You're eligible.
Yeah.
You're like very respected as a good quarterback, and you're going to play 3 more years and be 26 years old and try to get drafted. It just doesn't make any sense. But
and also it's not really beneficial to the player either. Like, for example, Hendon Hooker, I believe he was 25. He turned 26 the January after the season. So like his window to be a starter is it's smaller. He's older. Yeah. It's his window to be a starter in the NFL has really shrunk. And so like to me, it's not really beneficial to him. Now I think he's going to get a shot because I think he's really good, but that's just the point of like saying, hey, especially like from the quarterback position, your window's pretty small. Like once you get to about 28, 29 years old in the NFL, if you haven't clicked and put something together, you're done. They're kicking you to the road. They're saying he hasn't figured it out by 30. This dude sucks. Get him out of here. So, I mean, that's just the way it is in the NFL. So, I mean, I don't know how beneficial it is to stay in college 7 or 8 years to begin with.
Yeah.
But that's enough of court. I'm no lawyer. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. We'll see. So there's that put to bed. Moving on, Tennessee played Mississippi State this past weekend in Knoxville. Tennessee won relatively big. Where did that? I just had it pulled up. Where did it go?
It was 33-14, I think.
Thank you, Brett. Yes, 33-14. That moves the Vols to 8-1. Poor Mississippi State. They're now 2-8. Nico had a really solid first half. I thought that was, you could argue, some of the best that he's looked so far this year. As far as what the passes that he made, he was 8 for 13 with 174 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. I mean, pretty solid half of football there from the Vols. They were up 20-7 at half, pulled away really in the third quarter. Pulled away pretty big there after Mississippi State scored relatively early. And they pulled away from there. Mississippi State never scored again. So big win for Tennessee. You did what you were supposed to. You were heavy favorites and you won big. So you did your job. And, Tennessee, they're sitting in first place in the SEC right now with 3 to go. You have 3 games left, right, Britt? Georgia, UT Martin, and us. Is that correct?
We played Georgia, UTEP, and Vanderbilt.
UTEP, the coal miners. So, 3 games to go, sitting in first place in the SEC. You could, there's not really a better spot you could be in, and unless you didn't drop the Arkansas game, but it hasn't stopped you from being in first place. So,
yeah. And I'm going to get into the narrative a little bit about Tennessee just nationally, but if Tennessee doesn't have a stinker against Arkansas, I get it. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. But if Tennessee doesn't have that stinker against Arkansas, you're probably number 1 or 2 probably number 2 in the country. And everybody's talking about how insanely good you are. I understand you played the game for a reason. You lost that game. But Nico was playing his best ball before he went out. Over his last 4 quarters of play, so second half Alabama, first half Mississippi State. Oh, wait, no. The second half, this is his last 8 quarters. So it's the second half Alabama, Kentucky, first half of last week. He is completing 67% of his passes for 560 yards, 4 touchdowns. As a freshman in the SEC, 3 SEC games, that's all we can really ask for. Obviously went out at halftime and did not return. Josh Heupel says it's a precaution. We'll see. The injury report comes out Wednesday, I think we decided.
Yeah, Wednesday, I believe. First one tomorrow.
so we'll see about that. I think he has a concussion, which going to play on the road in the SEC at night, I would think that's not a very good place to be if you just had a concussion 6 days before. So we will see about that. So Mississippi State, I think a little bit better team than their record shows. I think they've had a tough schedule and
I agree.
a first-year coach. And, man, when you've got a legendary head coach who dies, like, dang, like, that's tough.
Yeah.
So I think they're a decent team, especially offensively. I think their defense is pretty terrible. But you kind of just were playing a game of let's get out of here and not die. Dylan Sampson got banged up and was able to come back and carry you to a win. Dylan Sampson's awesome. Dylan Sampson's the best running back in the SEC and probably top 3 or 4 in the country. He's just awesome. He's awesome. He's tough. He's going to get 100 yards. He's going to score touchdowns. Dante Thornton went down as well. I think he may be back Saturday. James Pierce went down. You had a lot of big players go down in a week that you were really just trying to get right before Georgia. So not ideal, but we'll see how things look. But looking at Georgia, it's hard for me not to compare this upcoming game to the last time we played in Athens. The stakes are bigger this year. A lot of people are saying this is a college football playoff eliminator even. Whoever loses may not make it in. I think if Georgia loses, they will not make it in.
Can we stop there for a second when you're done?
Yeah.
My number one respecter in college sports, the man I respect the most when he's talking is Josh Pate. And Josh Pate said it best. Ole Miss, if Ole Miss is 10-2, Bama's 10-2, Georgia's 10-2, and Tennessee's 10-2, do you want to know who's getting left out? Oh, and Texas wins the SEC. Do you want to know which one of those 5 teams are getting left out? Nobody. None of those 5 teams are getting left out. And I will write a check right now for $1,000 and say if I'm wrong, you can have it. I am so confident that this is not an eliminator game. I have no idea what ESPN and these other companies are talking about.
Liberals.
First of all, to address the elephant in the room, what everybody keeps talking about is strength of schedule. You're right. Tennessee, if they lose to Georgia and they beat UTEP and Vandy, they don't really have a good win on their schedule. I mean, they don't have a ranked win. No, I'm sorry.
You beat
they
Alabama.
Have Bama.
That's it.
They have Bama.
That's it.
They have Bama,
that's
and that's it. And I get it. I do. I understand the argument you could make. But for me personally, that is not enough to keep them out of a 12-team playoff when you're still playing teams that – and I'm not even trying to go there and argue how the SEC is a superior conference. But if you ask me, put Vandy in the ACC and let's see where they come out at. Let's put Vandy in the ACC and see who they can beat.
I have several things about that I'm going to try to remember to touch on, but I think we have got to a point as a society to say that it's the SEC and the Big Ten and everybody else.
Agreed.
Listen, the Big Ten adding Oregon and the teams that they added was
awesome.
They're a great conference, and
Yep.
they're right there with the SEC, especially this year, the SEC. I agree with everything you said about what Josh Pate said about those 5 teams not getting left out. What I don't agree with is Texas is not winning the SEC. Let's make that very clear. Texas is not an elite team. They're a good team. I think that defense is really good.
I was using that's the scenario that's the only way off. I was just saying if that's the scenario, all 5 of them would get in. I think if Texas doesn't win the SEC, if they lose the SEC championship game, I'm assuming they make it there because I think they will beat Texas A&M on the road last game of the season. They don't face anyone outside of that they're going to lose to. So if they win that game, they go to the SEC championship.
I think the 2 teams that are in the SEC championship will be in the playoff. That's the way it's going to set up.
I agree.
Tennessee at 10-2, according to ESPN, has a 76% chance to make the playoff. 10-2, Alabama has a greater than 99% chance to make the playoff, which I hate it. I hate Alabama. We beat them. We have the same record, and we beat them head to head. But the good teams that they played that were ranked at the time stayed good. Tennessee got unlucky. You scheduled an NC State team. Dave Doran, respected coach. NC State, a fairly respected program the last few years with Grayson McCall, one of the better quarterbacks of the last, 2 or 3 years. And they stunk. That's bad luck. You played Oklahoma, a powerhouse forever, a blue blood. They come to the SEC, they suck. That's just bad luck. That's nobody's fault. That's not Tennessee's fault. But I do think it plays into things, and you're going to come down to it, and Alabama's going to have a better resume than you.
Yeah, I mean,
and that stinks.
Looking at Bama's schedule, they're going to have a win over top 10 Georgia if Georgia beats Tennessee this week. Georgia will enter back in the top 10. They're 11 right now. Or, well, I guess that's going to change tonight as well, though. So I guess
the rankings on Tuesday.
No, I'm sorry. This is part of the AP poll. So you're going to have a top 10 Georgia win. You have a win over currently in the AP poll, number 23 South Carolina. And I know the AP poll doesn't really matter, but we can't really base it off of the college football poll because it's not out yet. So you got that win. You got a win over South Carolina. You got a win over LSU that you just beat.
That's a good win.
That's and on the road too. That can't be overstated, I don't think. And you've got a win over also still ranked number 24 Missouri. I don't necessarily think they should be ranked, but doesn't matter what I think. They are ranked. They are number 24. So still ranked Missouri. They were also ranked in the college football playoff poll last week in the college football playoffs first rankings. They were ranked. And so they've got a lot of solid wins. They have 2 losses, both to this state of Tennessee, Vanderbilt and Tennessee. And, Vanderbilt was ranked until this week. So it is what it is there. But Bama, when it's all said and done, I mean, they have to go on the road to beat Oklahoma, which I don't think that's a tough game, but still. And then you beat Auburn, who is not good. But, I mean, just those wins alone, LSU, South Carolina, Georgia, I mean, and, that's another team. They scheduled Wisconsin when Wisconsin was pretty solid 5 years ago, and Wisconsin sucked this year. And it's just continued to suck throughout the season. So, they have some good wins on their resume, and I think Bama's got one of the best resumes in the country when it's all said and done, even with their losses. I mean, you could argue it's a bad loss to Vandy if you want to argue that, and it may be to Tennessee, but at least that one's on the road. Or, I mean, Vandy was on the road too, but still, I mean, I just don't think they really have any bad losses, not any terrible ones, and their wins are great. So that's my argument for Bama getting in for sure.
Comparing this matchup between Tennessee and Georgia in 2022, the Hendon Hooker team, and hopefully after this year we can stop talking about. We'll never stop talking about Hendon Hooker, but hopefully we can stop the comparison. Because I'm going to say something here.
I'm listening.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to make a statement here.
I'm listening.
Give me 2024 Tennessee.
Over 2022?
Yes. And here's why. The 2022 balls going into the Georgia game, so not the end of the season, the South Carolina loss, the Vandy win, all that. Going into the Georgia game, you were averaging 41.6 points per game on offense, and you were giving up 33.2 on defense. This year, you're averaging 28.2 on offense. That's a big drop. That's 13 points a game, 2 touchdowns. You are giving up 15.7 points per game in Power 5. Both of these are Power 5. If your defense allows 16 points per game and your coach is Josh Heupel and you have Dylan Sampson on the team and Nico, you have a chance to win every single game.
Can I say something about this argument? Can I play devil's advocate here?
I don't want to do this. I love that team. I don't want to compare them, but I'm just saying.
Right. I get what you're saying. 2022 Tennessee offense would light up 2024 Tennessee's defense. Light them up. Hendon Hooker would have Tennessee's secondary 2024 in a coma. And I'm not saying that to crap on their defense this year. Tennessee has a really good defense. James Pierce is a beast, top 5 or top 10 lock pick for sure.
I mean, but
he would.
I don't disagree with you, man. But nobody's done it this year. And it sure ain't going to be Carson Beck to do it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
and we also have to take into account that 2022 Tennessee's offense didn't really have any, very similar to Vanderbilt team this year. It didn't have any film on it until, enough film on it until you get to week 8, 9, and then there's enough film on it to really understand what they like to do when they like to do it. And so the first team that you really saw throw in a good game plan against Tennessee was Georgia in 2022, and that was really because they got pressure, they flustered Hendon, and they gave him a lot of problems.
Hit the deep passes.
And
you hit the deep passes.
You couldn't hit the deep passes. Yep, and that's what it was. So it's kind of an unfair argument, but I like what you're doing here. I really do.
So the difference between the last time you were in Athens and this year going in, first of all, I just want to say I'm not supremely confident that Tennessee wins this game until I see it from Josh Heupel that you can win on the road. We don't know if Nico's playing. We don't know if Dante Thornton's playing. Dylan Sampson got banged up. I'm not saying I don't think there's a shot. I think even if Nico doesn't play, I think Tennessee has a shot because I think their defense is that good. But the difference this time for Tennessee will not get beat up on the line of scrimmage. I'll be very surprised if Tennessee gets obviously destroyed on the line of scrimmage like they did in 2022.
Either side?
Either side.
Either side. Okay, got it.
Either side. And last time you were down there, you lost by 14. It wasn't necessarily close, or you lost by 2 scores. This year, Tennessee isn't dependent on the deep ball. Some would even say Tennessee isn't good at the deep ball. Now, Nico's shown a little bit of progress on that. And this year, Tennessee has a top 5 defense.
Agreed.
So those are kind of some differences. Tennessee is currently number 5 in total defense. I think that's just yards, like total yards. Number 8 total offense. Georgia is currently at 13 total defense, so still a really good defense, and 50 in total offense. Carson Beck has thrown 9 interceptions in his last 5 games. So.
Yeah. This game, I think, comes down to a couple of things. One, Carson Beck has showed the ability to be an absolute liability at quarterback. An absolute liability at quarterback. This man has costed them games. He tried to cost them the Texas game. He costed them the Bama game by playing so bad in the first half and just straight up missing guys. And he costed them the game last week against Ole Miss by throwing 3 interceptions. Or maybe 4. He threw a lot of picks. That's what matters. This guy has not been playing good football. Simply, he has not been playing good football. If he throws 3 interceptions this week, Tennessee is going to win the football game. I truly believe that. If he throws 3 interceptions this week, UT will win the football game. Their defense is good enough to convert and put the offense in good position. And even if Nico doesn't play, if the defense is cooking like that early, Dylan Sampson will punch 1 or 2 in the end zone himself. And the offensive line is good enough to get push. So I think that's one thing you certainly have to watch. Now, on the opposite side of this, I had this note to say in our podcast last week, even though we didn't get to record, was this South Carolina-Vanderbilt game was setting up for a really bad spot for Vanderbilt. Diego was banged up. Our starting running back was banged up. Our best defensive lineman was banged up. Does that sound familiar to what Britt was just saying? It's not a good spot for Tennessee.
No, it's not.
Their best players on both sides of the ball, Dylan Sampson, James Pierce. Maybe you'll say it's Dylan Sampson. I know Brett probably thinks the best player on the offense is Dylan Sampson. Either player you want to put it, quarterback or running back. Your best players on offense are hurt. Your best player on defense is hurt. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to play. I just don't think any of those guys are going to give you 100% this week. And so if you're not clicking everywhere else, that could just sets up really bad. And that's what you saw with Vanderbilt this week, which is why I think the gap was bigger than you thought. And so I think you could see a similar matchup or a similar outcome for Tennessee and Georgia this week because, like I said, there's just some similarities for me. When Britt started talking, I was like, that's exactly what I had in my notes last week for Vanderbilt, South Carolina. Like, exactly. Best pass rushers are banged up. You got 3 defensive linemen out. Our quarterback's banged up. Our running back's banged up. Like, that's not a recipe to win. And so, But Vanderbilt got their A kicked on all three phases of the game. I mean, it wasn't just because those players were banged up. So not to draw a direct comparison or anything, but just to say it sounds awfully familiar to me. And, I think there's a way that Georgia wins big. And I also think there's a way where Carson Beck totally comes and keeps doing what he's been doing in Tennessee. Wins by, maybe it's a 2-score game until late and Georgia scores. And the score is a little bit closer than the game was. So, we'll see. But I think this game sets up to be really interesting. It's Vanderbilt's bye week. I'll be watching. So, look forward to that.
I don't think you can really understate the factor of motivation too for Georgia. I mean, they're going to be playing for their playoff hopes.
True.
You can't underestimate Kirby's ability to get those idiots down there to think that everybody thinks they suck, even though I've said for weeks that I think Georgia ends up losing 4 games. But this is the biggest game of Josh Heupel's career. And if you're an elite coach, you rise above and you take a step and you win this game. I'm not saying if we lose to Josh Heupel's not an elite coach, but at some point, if you are an elite college football coach, you win this game against Georgia.
Agreed. I think the best coaches win this game. I came on this podcast 2 weeks ago and questioned what kind of coach Lane Kiffin was. I think you had to. I don't necessarily think that you can go back in time and be like, Joseph, you're an idiot. I think if you look at what had happened, you question, is Lane Kiffin really an elite football coach? Is he a top 10 coach in the country? He gets paid like it. Is he a top 10? Is he a top 15 coach in the country? Is he? And, they won big this weekend and had a big win for them. So good for them. But, I think that ultimately Heupel does have to win this game. I think it is the biggest game of his career as well. I will agree with Britt there. Because if not, you just set up, and I by no means am saying Vanderbilt is going to beat Tennessee either, but if not, you just set up a big question of Tennessee's going to be 10-2, and I think they get in the playoff. But you go into rivalry week 9-2, going to Nashville. Best case will be a 50-50 split, not a true away game. We'll say neutral site. I think that's what it will be like. It'll be like a neutral site game for UT. And you're going to have it be rivalry week and your playoff hopes on the line against a hungry, gritty team that Vanderbilt is. And so I think that's a dangerous recipe if you don't win this game. So, for Tennessee, I'll tell you what, Britt, tell me this. What percentage do you think Tennessee wins this game? Nico plays and is 90%. What's your percentage? 60?
45.
45? What if he doesn't play? Let's go down a lot.
35.
35. Okay. All right.
Tennessee's going to rely heavily on Dylan Sampson.
Yeah, I think it's going to be I think it's a 50-50 split for me if Nico plays. 55-45 or 50-50 dead. Even if he doesn't play, I would drop it down to like 30-35.
And honestly, it's kind of crazy. Georgia, I don't know where they're at this moment, and I just realized I don't have any gambling picks for today. But Georgia was at one point a 10.5-point favorite.
Right.
And that's as the 11th ranked team in the country playing a 6th ranked, should be top 5 Tennessee team with a top 5 defense and a really good offense. I mean, that's kind of surprising.
Yeah. I mean, the college football playoff poll comes out here in 2 hours, and it would shock me if Tennessee was not at least number 6. I mean, the 2 teams in the top 5 lost. Tennessee was 8 last week. So if they just move up the 2 spots that they should, you go to 6. And so to me, that makes sense. I think the committee could have a really hard decision to make, though. I mean, there's a lot of good football teams. I think Indiana's a really good football team. They're undefeated. Oregon's another team undefeated. They've scraped by a couple times, though. But we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Of course.
Is this the best year of college football in our lifetime? As far as parity and excitement.
Yes, 100% yes. 100% in my opinion, yes. And honestly, this doesn't, I think a lot of people are getting confused on why this is. People are like, well, it's fair because everybody knows they can get in the playoff because it's 12 team. I think we would have this same kind of year with the 14 playoff. I just think this is a product of NIL and exactly what has came of it. And I just think you have to look at it and say, this is what's happening. And you have to love this landscape if you're a college football fan.
Yeah, I almost want to say there's 8 or 9 teams that could win the national championship.
I would agree. I think Ole Miss could win it all.
I do too.
I think Ole Miss could win it all. Georgia could win it all. Bama could win it all. I mean, there's no team that has just dominated everybody they've seen. Everybody struggled with somebody. So,
Well,
anybody can win.
Indiana's kind of dominated people, but
Yeah,
I don't respect them.
They played a close game, their first close game all year against Michigan. They did not play good. Their offense did not click. They looked banged up. It looks like they need a break. That's what they need. I truly
Well, they've
believe
got a
that.
break coming up. They play number 2 Ohio State next week. So
Yeah, some break. But yeah, I mean, regardless, I think this has been a really fun season. One heck of a season for us to end on, Britt. I'll say that. We're gonna get to go through all of the, like I said, all the hills and valleys we have endured from the podcast. So it's been one heck of a season to cover.
absolutely. Do you have some gambling picks?
Actually, I do. Yes.
Okay.
All right, hold on 1 second. Let me get them pulled up, though. I didn't say I had them pulled up. I just said I had some. Let's see.
Dang. Missouri is a 12.5-point underdog at South Carolina. That's
Who
pretty
is?
well. Missouri.
Is a 12.5-point underdog.
Yep.
They were not in my bets. All right, let me get here. Perfect. All right, here we are. Ready? First pick, Rutgers takes on Maryland. Maryland at home. It's a 4-point spread. Just give me Maryland money line. That's all we need right there. Maryland money line really gets it going. Oregon takes on Wisconsin. It's away. Don't care. Give me Oregon minus 13.5. Oregon minus 13.5 there. Next game. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. Cincinnati at Iowa State. Iowa State just took a big-time loss to Kansas. They're at home. They're looking to bounce back. They're not going to. Give me Cincinnati plus 9.5 this week against Iowa State. Washington State is playing New Mexico this week on the road. Washington State's got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Give me Washington State minus 13.5. Also a sneaky team to see if they could get into the playoff. They're ranked 19 right now. Sneaky team to kind of watch there. Kansas takes on BYU this weekend. Give me BYU money line. I think that game's a little too close. It's a 2-point spread. Kansas had a big win against Iowa State, who I just bet against. I don't believe in Kansas. So BYU money line, that is my 5 picks. $10 wins 178.
Okay, you can go make some money there. I have one pick.
Okay.
Give me Tennessee plus 10. Tennessee plus 10, currently sitting at minus 112.
I like that.
Sprinkle some on that. Sprinkle some on that. It's at 10 as of Tuesday night.
That's right. Get that.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Sprinkle that money line.
Sprinkle the money line. Make some money.
There it is. Another episode in the books here on Where's the Line. We appreciate you guys so much for listening. Thank you for sticking with us this far. A few more episodes to go before it is all over. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you guys listening. As always, anchor down.
Go Vols. See y'all next week.
See y'all.